Well, hello and welcome. James with you, and thanks for tuning in to Kalkine TV for a very special edition of Executive Corner Expert Talks. Now, the New South Wales State Budget was released yesterday, and there are some major takeaways from it. To deconstruct the package, Robyn Preston, the State Member for Hawkesbury, joins me on the program live from the New South Wales State Parliament. Robyn, a very good afternoon to you.
Hi James, good to be with you.
Fantastic to have your company here. Let's start off with a bit of reflection. As part of the announcement, the state government has looked back on the past 10 years to assess some of the budget-related wins and losses. What's the government's position on that period?
Well, it's a good question. 10 years ago, we wouldn't have thought that we'd be in this position now. And look, we have to look at what we've spent over the last 10 years, what infrastructure projects we've put in. There's been more than 160 schools that have been upgraded, $20 billion in budget surplus for 13-14 financial year and the 18-19 financial year, 4 years of negative net debt, and looking at the infrastructure, I guess that's what's driven a recovery to New South Wales compared to other states. Over $150 billion in infrastructure spend over the last 10 years. And we've also looked at strengthening our regional economies as well. And of course, a game changer, which has really proven quite amazing with the COVID pandemic, is the Service New South Wales renovation and change that we made to that whole new look and feel of that government department. And it's had a really big interaction with how we manage COVID as well. We talked about the QR codes that businesses are now adapting so that people can be comfortable in going out and about in the community. We've had an update with COVID. Even just this morning, things are changing. So keeping people abreast of that with government updates is very important, and that comes through that Service New South Wales app as well.
Well, look, we'll touch on the new COVID restrictions that have been updated quite recently, and also you mentioned their regional development and infrastructure. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I think it's fair to say that this budget has an eye on a post-COVID future, given the allotments towards a lot of tourism projects. Could you shed a bit more light on that?
Look, and I know the Premier's been really keen to reinforce that she doesn't want to lock down the whole state, as other states have had to do. We want to keep businesses running, we want to keep the economies going, we want to keep jobs available for people. The construction industry has been particularly boosted by infrastructure spend from the state government. I think we want to continue to do that as well. It's really important that we try and keep the economy going as it was post-COVID. Unemployment was 7.5% at COVID. We're really pleased. The Treasurer announced yesterday it's 5% and falling. So that's a great indication that we are bringing in jobs. We had 270,000 jobs lost at COVID. We've now recovered those 270,000 jobs, and we've increased it by another 36,000. So this state is still maintaining a AAA credit rating. We're the only state in Australia that's been able to do that. And it's because of the measures that we're putting in place post-COVID to drive the economy forward.
Yeah, look, it's good signs moving forward. You mentioned there the job rate, I should say, growing continuously. The other thing that's been a big concern for people, though, is housing. That's an issue that's affected people all across the state. Does the budget work to address those shortcomings at the moment?
Look, there's a range of things. I might just talk about health and education as well while we're talking about the budget. There's in health, there's $27.1 billion that we're spending, $82.8 million to continue to strengthen palliative care. That's a really important area to foster. It's a passionate belief of mine as well in palliative care. $8.6 million to people with movement disorders such as Parkinson's disease, so we're investing in that area as well. $12.2 million for the Tresillian for families experiencing difficulties in the first critical years of a child's life. Education and skills, $20.9 billion, just a couple of things in that area. There's $57.7 million for curriculum reforms. We want to look at what we're teaching in schools, and are we getting it right? If not, let's look at that. And also $1.5 billion to non-government schools as well to support them, and looking at financial literacy challenges as well. I wanted to just touch on the stronger communities, the National Disability NDIS contributions. That's 3.6 million. Look, jump across to transport. I was actually, from a Hawkesbury perspective, really happy on the 7th of June when the Prime Minister and the Premier came out, and Andrew Constance and Paul Fletcher, to announce that Hawkesbury was having a major infrastructure spend of $500 million.
Yes.
There's a new Richmond Bridge and a bypass that's being funded, which will create 850 local jobs in the area. So these are the sorts of projects that state and federal are coming together as well to create more infrastructure, more opportunities for families to get home to the dinner table in time instead of sitting in traffic queues. So looking at the realistic issues out there and how we can solve those, that was a great announcement. And there are more of those across New South Wales that communities will be able to enjoy.
Yeah, fantastic. And that bridge project itself, $500 million, $400 coming from the federal government too. So you're right, it really is a collaborative project. Just before I let you go, Robyn, can we have a little discussion as well about the latest restrictions that have been announced in relation to COVID? We've now got a maximum of 20 people in indoor gatherings for public areas. What are the other restrictions? And obviously that's coming in at 4 o'clock. What do you know about that from your perspective?
Well, look, the Premier's just issued restrictions for the Greater Sydney area. Visitors to households to be limited to 5 guests, including children. There's masks compulsory in all indoor non-residential settings, including workplaces and at organised outdoor events as well. Drinking while standing indoor venues, it's not allowed. Singing by audiences, all these great things that we love to do. I'm sorry, we're going to have to pull back on that. We just have to manage the risk, and this is why these restrictions are being put in. No dancing at indoor hospitality venues, nightclubs, gyms. Make sure masks are worn there as well. At dance classes also. 1 person per 4 square metre rule will be enforced. This is from 4 o'clock today for 1 week, all these restrictions. Outdoors, seated events will be limited to 50% seated capacity, and back to wearing masks on public transport, and there will be green dots where to stand in public transport as well. And if you live or work in the City of Sydney, Waverley, Randwick, Canada Bay, Inner West, Bayside and Wallara local government areas, you cannot travel outside the metropolitan Sydney for non-essential travel. So you will be able to access this on the state government's website. We've got updates coming, and I'll put them on my Facebook page as well. But things are changing and moving quite rapidly, so we're putting in those measures to protect the community out there. And can I encourage everyone who's eligible for a vaccination to go and get one? I had my AstraZeneca first vaccination about 10 days ago. Really glad that I did. I've got another one coming up in September. I know they're encouraging people to get Pfizer and the AstraZeneca vaccines. So please check in with your GP and get the latest update on your eligibility for that.
Yeah, well, Robyn, well said. Thank you so much for your time today. And look, hopefully we can see us coming out of that new COVID restriction cycle pretty quickly.
I hope so too.
Well, that's Robyn Preston, State Member for Hawkesbury, deconstructing the New South Wales budget and also providing an update on our COVID situation. And we'll have more news on the state budget moving forward throughout the day and also into the rest of the week. And if you'd like to catch more of Kalkine's exclusive news and interviews, then make sure to head across to our YouTube channel, Kalkine Media, and dive into the catalogue. I'm James for Kalkine TV.